Questions are brief, and if anyone has a question to ask, make sure that it is a question and not a statement, and one question only. Okay, so please make a line down this side, and we can take questions for a few minutes.
Yes.
Thanks for coming to New Hampshire, and thank you for letting me ask a question. My question is, I'm sure you've seen the video of Building 7 in New York collapsing into its own footprint at freefall acceleration on September 11th, 2001. My question is, given all the evidence that incendiary devices, probably nanothermite, were used, would you be willing to go on the record and say that 9/11 was an inside job?
No.
And why would that?
That's 2 questions.
Next question.
Thank you.
Yes.
When the FBI raided your house, you had your photographers there. Did you know that was going to happen, so you were prepared?
So what happened was they actually raided Eric Cochran and Spencer Mead's home, who were journalists of mine, on November 3rd. And then when they knocked on my door, it was November 5th. So by the time that they knocked on my door, it was just almost certain that they were federal agents. And they were pounding hard. And I guess they could be people impersonating federal agents. But the first thing that went through my mind, so yeah, I knew because of the colleagues before. The first thought that was going through my mind, actually, when this happened, it was like 6 a.m. or 5:59 a.m. When I opened my eyes and I heard the pounding was, how long have they been pounding on my door? And how long do I have until they break my door down? And the thing that I was most concerned about is them breaking my door down. Because I have a series of locks on my door and I don't have to replace them. So I sprinted to my door in my small apartment, and this is pitch black. It's pitch black, and I'm not clothed. I am just in my underwear. And I opened the door, and that's when they put me in handcuffs and put me in the hallway of my apartment building. And at this point, neighbors are waking up, they're screaming. It's as bad as you can imagine. So I think that, like most things in life, it's hard to understand what it's like unless you actually go through it. You can see it in movies, you can read about it, but to actually, experience it, it is a form of violence, it's a form of psychological terrorism when they do this to you. Because your mind starts going a million directions, especially when you're an innocent man. When you're innocent, it's worse. Because your mind thinks, well, what are they going to put child porn on my phone? Are they going to go after my parents? Are they going to, make up something? And that's fear. That's what fear actually means. So you have to be willing to stand up and continue despite those fears, which is a choice. It's the first 24 to 48 hours of this was traumatic. I had been through something similar in New Orleans in 2010 when they arrested me and put me in shackles and put me in jail and arraigned me. And it's something that everyone should be opposed to. It's something that everyone in this room, I think we have someone in the Dartmouth Review back there in the blue mask who's actually from the Dartmouth Review. I'd love to talk to you. I don't know your name. He's wearing the baseball hat, the Adidas hat. I've learned that you're part of the Dartmouth newspaper, not Review, sorry.
He's not.
Oh, he's not?
Yeah,
The Dartmouth Daily Paper, or whatever your actual, what is the paper called? Okay.
The regular one that you're referring to is called the Dartmouth.
The Dartmouth, thank you. I stand corrected, the Dartmouth. So I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the raids.
I'm not affiliated with either of those.
Okay. All right, next question.
Hi, you referenced Kyle Mullen's piece in the Dartmouth Incorporated multiple times, but that piece was in a... Sorry, I didn't know that. The piece was reported as in a... Is it? Oh, God, no, go. Sorry. I can talk. The piece was seen as an opinion piece, and it was listed at the end. In any news article or any news organization, both liberal and conservative, opinion pieces are usually seen as different as reporting pieces. So why was this used as the basis of your speech, if it was an opinion piece?
Well, I think the same reason that Judge Wood in the Supreme Court of New York said, is it ethical to disguise news as opinion, right? That was what the New York Times said in their response. Well, it's just an opinion. And I think that journalists have an obligation to be factual. There's so much of this opinion out there. I just want the cold, hard facts. And this is something that is an editor-in-chief of a newspaper. His opinion carries weight. And the blurring between opinion and fact is the basis of our defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. I think it's important. There's very little actual journalism anymore. It's all a bunch of people bloviating their opinion. And that's, frankly, the whole problem that we're in. We need to get back to reporting facts. That's what journalists are supposed to do.
There is a reporting piece.
And I would question the ethics of a journalist who has such ridiculous opinions and doesn't include everything I've said here today.
Mr. James O'Keefe, thank you for coming here today and doing God's work. I have one question though. So I was going to ask you about that article, and I'm glad that you talked about it in such detail and attacked it so concisely. For regular people though, who don't quite have the platform that you have, do you have any advice for how to deal with those kind of attacks on a more like personal level, for like just posting on Facebook, for instance?
Great question. How do regular people without the platform do it? I mean, there's someone sitting next to you, to your right, Skip from Granite Rock, New Hampshire. You kind of a statewide blogger here. Here's an example of a guy who just goes out and does it. Look what he's doing right now. He's got his camera, it's on a gimbal, he's got a website. There are very few barriers to entry to actually do what he's doing, you know?
You have a problem? Email me at skip@graniterock.com. Simple.
I mean, there you go. I mean, the biggest barrier to entry for you is not, you know how to do it. I think the biggest barrier to entry for anyone is fear. One guy, I won't mention names, but someone in Congress once said to me, James, I wish I could do what you do. He said, well, I just can't. And I said, no, you can, you choose not to.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. My question was, do you believe there's some version of Operation Mockingbird still going on today with regards to the Russian-Ukraine war? And there's been some, like RT's been taken down from YouTube, and we may not agree with what they say, but to eliminate an entire news organization down, do you have any opinion on that?
No. See, this is what I don't do. Unlike the guy in the dark, I don't opine on things I know nothing about. I like to keep it to the facts. It's pretty straightforward. And that's why I made that article the basis of my presentation, because it is the problem we have in society. We need to focus on the facts. There's a lot of great people inside these organizations, and you'll see them come out. Any more questions? We need people to be brave and do something and ask me questions.
So, thank you. I enjoyed the presentation. I see like a lot of the bad people doing bad things that you exposed are probably good for society. The invasion of the FBI of your residence is obviously abject. Between those two, some value of privacy lies. Where do you think that privacy plays a role in society?
Privacy in what sense? That's a pretty broad topic. Just the recording of people, or what do you mean?
Yes, there's many kinds of privacy. I was just giving you a broad riff on it. However you think privacy, the value, lies, I understand that it's difficult to answer it legally. So I'll just start with yes.
So like recording people without them knowing, and where do those boundaries lie, for example?
Yeah.
Well, I think as long as someone knows that they're being spoken to, I believe in one-party consent, both legally and ethically. We've challenged in Massachusetts, we sued the state because it requires everyone know they're being recorded. So if you and I are having a private conversation, quote unquote private, and there's nobody else in this auditorium, it's just you and I, but if one of us knows that we're recording, I think that it's ethical and legal, because you're choosing to share information with me. So people have attacked us because we violate people's privacy. recording them. But you could say something to me and I don't have a camera and I could write it down and it won't be as accurate as a recording. So surely society would think it unreasonable to place restrictions on my right to record you when I could relay information in a different way. I think that it's a constitutional right to record someone as long as that person is talking to me. And you're volunteering information to what basically is a stranger. I've never met you before. So that's what we argue, and I think it's moral, and there's nothing immoral about it. I mean, it's not entrapment to record someone you're talking to. It's not an invasion of privacy. And there's a chapter in my book, American Muckraker, talks a lot more about this, a lot of footnotes, citing a lot of academic research papers from people who've written about this. And we actually won in the federal court in Massachusetts, went to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, and wrote a writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court on this very issue. And we are challenging the laws nationwide so that we can do this in all states. Right now, we can only do it in 38 states. There's 12 states where there's a two-party consent law. New Hampshire's two-party, well, there are exceptions if you're in a place of no reasonable expectation of privacy, like right here, right now. Good, more brave people.
Yeah, hey James, thanks for
I want more haters. Bring on the haters.
Well, I'm not here to hate on you. Actually, I was going to compliment you. I really appreciate your work. I think you got balls as big as planets, and it's to be admired. But so my question for you is, you know,
Quibbles.
there's lots of sources to get information these days. You say, we just want the facts, and there's a lot of media bias out there. Can you name just a couple of sources you would recommend to people who are going to get the least adulterated factual information, so people aren't getting into these echo chambers and down rabbit holes?
Well, I think the least amount is the problem I have with your question. You need to read a lot, and you know, like the major newspapers, sometimes by reading multiple ones, you can read between the lines. And also primary sources. So journalism that's participatory, where in other words, you can see the actual primary source for yourself, wherever that is, whatever that is. I understand there's deep fakes and doctored things, but for the most part, primary source journalism, first-person observation journalism, whether it be social media or newspapers that provide that sort of thing, but you have to read a lot. You have to consume a lot of information.
No names in particular, just ferret it out yourself.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. Primary source, first-person observation journalism, and it's a tricky issue. It's a problem, but I go back to my point earlier. Trust your eyes and ears. George Orwell writes in 1984, the party tells you to reject the evidence of your own eyes and ears. It's their most important commandment.
Mm-hmm.
So trust your eyes and ears. Choose sources that can show you. Don't believe anything unless you can see it. That's my advice. Now, I still read the Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I read it and try to find out what's between the lines.
Thank you.
What's the quote? Oceania has always been at war with East Asia, is that right? My question for you is regarding the technology. I'm interested in how to identify one of your video cameras if I ever encounter one. Where I might purchase one if I want to use one. Is this stuff I can get on Amazon? How does it work?
What you can do is go to the back of the room and speak to one of my colleagues and we'll set you up.
Very cool.
Is it in the hat?
You're all being proxied by me.
I'm just curious, for a while there I followed the meanderings of Anonymous and all of that, and they seem to have dropped off the face of the earth, and this feels a little bit more honest to me, and so I don't really have much. I'm just kind of curious if you have any opinion about that sort of decentralized approach to journalism and that kind of mutated into this evil doxing. Any thoughts on how, because you're adjacent to it, you're not doing that, but you're kind of in that area. Just if you had any thoughts in that area, what kind of happened there?
What happened to Anonymous, that organization that was going after people? I mean, I think the only type of journalism is sort of decentralized journalism.
Yeah.
One of the tapes I didn't have time to show you was David Wright, ABC News, who said the commercial imperative is incompatible with news telling. He was a socialist. I agree with him. I think the commercial imperative is not compatible with investigative journalism. So we don't have advertisers. No one tells us what to do. That's actually so shocking to people. I got into an argument outside. We'll post it to YouTube like tomorrow. It's pretty amazing to watch. He could not believe that these people that donate to us don't tell us what to do. He kept, no, they do tell you what to do. I said, how do you know that? I'm telling you they don't. No, they do. Because it blew his mind. And news organizations have advertisers. Brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Pfizer. It's so obvious that that's a conflict of interest. So in some regard, I have more in common with those organizations. That's why I said, why is Antifa opposed to me? I don't fully understand that. But you had yesterday or the other day, the Washington Post reporter released the name of the Libs of TikTok woman. That's a very interesting philosophical discussion. The right of her to remain anonymous so that she's not getting attacked, retaliated, versus the right of the Washington Post reporter to reveal her name because it's newsworthy. These two things come into conflict with one another. What is my opinion? I don't really have an opinion. I can see both sides of that argument. But the right to remain anonymous, these people to remain anonymous inside ABC News, that's a constitutional right. So that people can get the information. So I can see why she would want to remain anonymous so they can keep releasing videos. It's a tough issue. It's a really tough one. I see both sides of that one.
Hey, sorry, I know I already asked one, but a follow-up question is, how do you deal with the stress every day of living in a society that's constantly double-thinking itself over and over again?
How do you deal with the stress?
Yeah.
Sailing.
Sailing. You try to surround yourself with a good team. You have a good team. You have to have people around you who believe in the same things you believe in. And it is tough. But there's actually, I believe, more good people than there is evil. Your question really boils down to, how do you deal with the fact that there's evil in the world? It's not easy. But you have to find the good ones. And you have to get them to do something. That's our mission. There's Veritas tips at protonmail.com, fully encrypted. There's our tip line. Someone in this room knows somebody who works for Google or the IRS or something, reach out to us. Oh, another one?
So hey James, I actually think we have somebody from the Dartmouth paper.
Do you?
Soleil, you want to come down and ask James some questions? I think, are you working on an article for
What's the person?
Oh, Soleil,
Oh.
come on down. You all right?
Oh, are you writing an article about this? I am. What are your thoughts? Are you willing to share them? Any tough questions?
I'll just be reporting on the event.
Okay.
Reporting or opining? That seems important.
Reporting or opining? Well, I hope you do. Any questions I can ask for you right now, answer for you right now that you have as you write your article? Do you intend to reach out to me for comment? I guess this speech is my comment. But I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. All right?
No comment.
No comment. All right. There we go. Be brave, This is your opportunity.
Are there any more questions? I think we have time for maybe one more. Going once? Going twice? Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you for coming out. It's very clear that in America we need to fight for unbiased journalism, and James and his team at Project Veritas are doing that hard work for us, so thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Croc TV.